Welcome to the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another great episode. We have two amazing guests who are both highly recommended by people I know and telling me to have them on my show. So I'm very, very excited to have them here. Both of which are very, very good at what they do and has been using their expertise to help people all around the world become more successful, more confident, become better leaders, become better entrepreneurs, better business owners, you name it. They've been involved in helping people out from all over the world. One of which is Andy Wines, who is an entrepreneur, author, and speaker, helping people really overcome their fears, their challenges, especially their self-doubt. He is the author of the book Words Effing Matter, and that really focuses on how to retrain your brain to use the right words, right language to serve you and not deter you, which sometimes a lot of people do without even knowing. Secondly, we have Lynn Corazzi, which is somebody who is the founder of Data to Profit. He helps business owners really start to love their numbers, be money confident, and sometimes face those numbers and understand how to use them because you know what? Sometimes those numbers are scary and start to understand and how to face them. That's when you start growing and become more successful. So please welcome authors of the book Stop Avoiding Your Numbers, Mr. Andy Wines and Lynn Corazzi.
Pleasure to be here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for being here. Always a joy speaking with people who have the type of expertise the two of you have, and also willing to share that expertise with people because lots of people are so unwilling to share that they keep everything to themselves. And like
hmm
from what I heard, there was a quote saying that if you're not sharing your wisdom, you're not sharing your expertise, you're failing. So I take that quote to heart, and thank you very much for the two of you for being here. Before we jump into the details and all the nitty-gritty stuff that you two are going to be presenting today, share with us your background. How did you become to where you are today? And like for instance, Lynn, how did you become this data magician, which people calls you? And also Andy, how did you become this great leadership consultant, helping people overcome their fears? We'll start with how about Lynn?
Okay, sure. Yep, my story, I'm a corporate finance refugee. So I spent 14 years with Procter and Gamble, worked across the country with them, did an international assignment with them, and went from there to a smaller cheese company where I really had the opportunity to work with data in a brand new way. We created some proprietary databases that really transformed the way this company went to business and the way that salespeople were managing their territories, managing their clients, managing their customers, understanding their sales, what drove them. And we ended up aligning, corporate strategy, sales compensation, and our distributor trade programs around 8 numbers. Everybody knew exactly what every one of those numbers meant, how they got to it, and what they do with it. And what we ended up doing is driving almost a doubling of sales, the rate of sales growth year over year over year for 3 years, which is actually really kind of cool when you think about all the decisions and behaviors that those numbers started to represent. When I left Grande Cheese, I ended up going out on my own and have been working as a fractional CFO since then. When I first started my business, I was thinking I'm going to do more business analytics, data analytics. I kept saying that to people and it killed them. And finally, a business coach said, Lynn, you're killing people. You can't say data analytics. We need to make you more friendly. So you're going to be the data magician. I said, Pat, I can't say that to people. He said, well, Lynn, think of it this way. To a big lighter, to a caveman, a big lighter is freaking magic. What you do with data is magic to people, to cave people like me. So that's how I got into this.
That is awesome. I love how that switch of a word makes people go, "Oh, really? What does that mean?" kind of thing. I
Yeah.
heard somebody goes, there was a conversation. So what do you do? And goes, "Oh, I shoot people." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Oh, I'm a photographer." So I'm like, "Oh, I get it now." Awesome. Thank
Yes.
you. Andy, your story.
Yeah, so I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur. So great grandfather on down, all the real influential men in my life have been entrepreneurs, and along with their wives, my grandmother, my mother, supporting the businesses along the way. And I got an entrepreneurship 10 years ago, full time on my own, and I went through two bookkeepers in the first 6 months, and I kept because I kept asking questions they couldn't answer, and I thought, okay, you know what? In order for me to know what questions to ask, I need to figure out how bookkeeping works. And so, we started our business in June of 16, and I spent probably the entire month of December learning QuickBooks, going through the tutorials, watching University of YouTube, breaking it and fixing it, and always with this end state in mind of what does my P&L tell me? profit and loss statement, income statement, whatever you want to look at it. And then over time, I became more and more obsessed with my data. And as I talked to other business owners, I realized most of them had no clue what their numbers were. They didn't have a QuickBooks login. They had somebody else take care of it, or they didn't do it at all. And at the end of the year, they just kind of looked at their till and they looked at their receipts and they said, "This is what we think we owe in taxes." And then I got into about 5 years into business, 4 years, I got into consulting for other junk removal companies because I had been relatively successful. And time again, I wanted to do operational consulting because that's my background. That's what I know. I know how to run junk removal companies. And every time I did consulting, it turned into, well, what are the results? And they're like, we don't know. And they weren't measuring the results. And the results, that's the data. That's the good stuff. How do we know if it's working or not working unless we check the results? And then it shifted into that. All of a sudden, basically, all I was doing was I didn't know I was a fractional CFO at the time. I was a consultant that focused on finance and numbers. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then 3 years ago, I stepped out as after I released my first book, the woman I wrote the book with, the ghostwriter, she said, Andy, the first book is all about words and neuro linguistics programming. And it took a lot of research and data to understand that language and why it works. And all the while, when her and I would have casual conversations about business and finance, she's like, Andy, you understand this numbers thing way more than these words. I go, well, yeah, that's simple. That's just like da, 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 da. She's like, you don't even have to like look this up. You just know it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I I started picking up clients and realized that almost every business has the same problem. They want to know where's all the money and how do I get more?
Mhm.
And once you understand how to read a P&L and ask great questions, the business is agnostic. So now, in my client load, I only have one junk removal company. Every other business is service based. I have a college consulting company. I have a ghostwriting company, right? So different companies, and it's like, well, the numbers are telling us the same things. The questions are simple and the same. And then Lynn and I, a couple of years ago, started nerding out to numbers and talking about our networking events and talked about how he wanted to write a book. I had written a book. So he comes with his aspirational ideas. He comes with the corporate finance background, the degree, and I come with this, hard knock life experience of doing the thing. And so it was a great collaboration over the last 2 years as we started writing it, and now it's out. Now it's gonna be out and available.
Awesome. That's amazing, and it's really cool how people meet. The two of you seem to be very different people,
Oh yeah.
and it kind of gels well together to collaborate on this book. So share with us the collaboration. Like, how did you decide? Okay, you do this part, you do this part, or I'll do this first, and you add your stuff. Like, how did that work? Because that's usually the downfall of a lot of partnerships when stuff like that's not discussed. So how did you guys collaborate?
It was amazingly simple because I think our ghostwriter, same woman who wrote with Andy's first book, we talked a lot about this very early on. How are you guys going to work together? But once we got started, we kind of had a simple process that we laid out. And it's just amazing. Even though we come from the world from two completely different perspectives, we agreed almost immediately on what we were going to do, what type of voice we were going to have, the message we wanted to get across, who this was targeted to. So it actually worked out really, really well. And yeah, so the perspective, meeting people. Andy and I are like, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Twins. Andy's tall, I'm short. I'm corporate. He likes to refer to himself as hillbilly Matt. But it wasn't like we had to work through a whole bunch of issues. They just naturally flowed and we gelled.
Awesome.
Yeah, and there was the other thing is we lean, there was a couple things I talk about all the time. Process will outwork people all day, right? With a simple process that's easy to follow, that's a simple process that's simple to follow. I avoid the word easy. And so our process was simple. We would write together with the ghostwriter. She would send us the chapters review. Lynn would review them first. I would review them second. And that did a couple things. It allowed Lynn to make sure the technicals were correct, right? When you think about, I'm a big sports guy, right? Sports announcers. There's color and there's commentary. So Lynn is very much the commentary. He makes sure we got the down and distance correct, and then I provided the color. And you need the play-by-play before you get to the color aspect. And so we've always run that system. And there's been a few times where we had the conflict. And the beautiful thing about it, our ghostwriter, she is our ideal client. She's a female woman, she's a female business owner that avoids her numbers. And so when we would have this impasse, right, when either we were getting too technical in our jargon, or it was becoming complicated, or we were at impasse of any sort, she was really like, okay, this is what I take, this is what I understand. And
Mhm.
having that voice would be like, oh wait, I'm way off, or Lynn's way off, or we are both way off. And now we were able to test it throughout. So as we wrote the chapters, when we started getting off track, she got us back to center. And then really we also recognized, we checked our egos at the door. We recognized that we both have two different levels of expertise. When it came to the financial documents in particular, Lynn took the lead. That's really more his speed, his understanding, and I took the lead more on the scorecard because that's more my understanding, my lead. So again, it's two sets of numbers, and we both have different levels of experience, and so that's what's been working for us from day one. Because we're two very different people with a similar goal in mind, we're able to navigate and really did not come to a point of contention. And I've had business partners in the past that were similar to me, or did not agree with where we were going, and that's when conflict has arisen.
What was the when two of you decided to work together, was there something like, okay, this person is the right fit, this person balances me out? Like, how did you kind of go through that process on an individual basis? Like, what was it about Andy that you go, okay, this is the right person for me to partner up with? And Andy, why did you think Lynn was the right person to partner up with? Because I've been in partnerships before, and you're so excited at the beginning, it works out very, very well. You kind of forget all the other if, ands, or buts, and you just jump right into it. And then all of a sudden it's like, this doesn't gel well and all that kind of stuff. And lots of people jump into partnerships very, very fast. So was there a feeling out process before you go, no, let's get this done? Or did you kind of really think it through?
No, there was a lot of kidding. When and I first met Andy at a number of different networking events, and his ghostwriter was a guest at one of them, and so he was actually up on the panel, and she was one of the guests, and I stood at that time and said, I have a book inside me that I know is going to come out one of these days. I told a business professor, back in 2000, I was going to write a book. And so after he talked about it, I made this outward thing that says, yes, I want to write a book. And then after that, after he published his first book, it almost became like, okay, now we're going to do one about numbers. Yeah, 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 we'll do it. We kept bumping into each other. And finally, it was just one day. I don't even remember what day it was, but all of a sudden we said, are we going to do this or not? And it just kind of happened. But yes, it almost began as a running joke between us. At least that's what I remember it as.
Yeah, well, in what was interesting to me was after I wrote my book, and as I was writing my book and finishing it, a lot of people I had, there was 100 Lins that came up to me. Oh, I've always wanted to write this book. I'm going to write this book, and I talked about it in my first book. When people say I'm thinking, I'm talking, I'm trying, all they're doing is lying because they're not literally putting pen to paper. They're not doing the thing that they said they're gonna do. Right? I'm going to start working out next week. Well, great, right? Let's see. And so the difference was Lynn had joined an authors club with our ghostwriter and was actually starting to put pen to paper. He was putting in the work, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And um I was in the same shoe, I was in the same boat years before that. I was, oh, I'm going to write a book, or I had the running joke before my first book, this isn't the book that I'm writing in my head. And so again, when you tell yourself enough of the same thing, you can convince your brain can convince your body to do the thing that you're avoiding. And so once I got over that hump, I wrote a book. As Lynn was going over that hump, I gave him an opportunity to do it together. I'm like, I've been down this road before. Let's let's explore this together. And I knew Lynn had more experience than I did. That was the thing that jumped out at me. I was willing to go into the fight with little to no knowledge and figure it out. And I knew having Lynn by my side, he would be able to direct me because, again, he has also the pedigree. There's some people, this happened recently. I got on a call and they saw me. I'm wearing a t-shirt, ball cap. I'm sitting in a chicken coop in, rural Wisconsin. And they're like, you're not what I thought a CFO would be. I'm like, cool. Right. And there's going to be people that grab this book and be like, who's this guy and what does he know? Well, when you partner him with the person with the degree, with the experience, with the pedigree, well, it's like, oh, wait, okay, this guy trusts him. Now I know I can trust him. So there's that outwardly facing thing. And then also, like I said on the question before, Lynn has a depth of knowledge and experience that I don't have. This is like a part-time side hustle, fun hobby for me to do fractional CFO work. I still own a business. I do keynote speaking. So fractional CFO work is my, it really is it's a side hustle of a side hustle and it's something I enjoy doing. Right. As soon as it's not fun anymore, then I don't do it. So it's fun. And Lynn does it full time and it's fun. And he is the data magician. And I met him as the data magician. And that's interesting. So from day one, we both looked at each other with a level of credibility that allowed us to lean in on their strengths.
So there's this saying where people go, if you look for it, you'll find it. Now,
Yeah.
is that true when it comes to numbers? Like sometimes if you're looking for something, like let's say if you're looking for good results,
Yep.
will you be able to find the numbers that would support good results?
So uh, in my first book, I talk about this. I eliminate the word if
Mhm.
from my vernacular. So let's change that to either whether or when, right?
Mhm.
So when applies here because it's time bound. When we look for numbers, we'll find them. And you're absolutely right. This is the issue that entrepreneurs face, and this is the issue humans face. We make a decision in our heads. I'm going to go there. And then we go find data and people that validate where we're going, right? If you when you tell somebody, "Hey, I'm gonna run a marathon," right? When the people are like, "Oh, you can't," or you don't listen to them. You only listen to people that are, ran marathons and tell you you're great, right? That's why you always want to share news with your mom because no matter how bad it is, mom's always gonna be like, "That's a great idea, honey." It's no different than your numbers. When you say we're having a really good month, you will look at your numbers and say, "Look, look, look, look! We're having a good month." No different than, "Oh, that's a really good employee." It's like, "Oh, why?" Well, what makes him a good employee? Because you've come to the results before he came and put in the work. And the only place where results come before work is in the dictionary. When you objectively look at your number and your numbers, you look at the numbers, put your blinders on, forget everything else you know, forget all the subjectivity of your business, then we can start actually analyzing and having truth. There's plenty of times I've told people, I'm like, I don't know who Linda is. She's your lowest performer, right? And they're like, oh, well, Linda's great. I said, fine. I didn't say she wasn't great. She's your lowest performer. And so when we look at the number, or people, oh, we love selling this product. Great. That's your lowest margin. Well, but we love selling it. Okay, increase. You need to increase the price to make it profitable. Oh, people won't buy it at that price. And so I put my hands up, and that's our job. We get to be completely objective, and as third party advisors, I don't know the ins and outs of your business.
Mhm.
Me not knowing your business is a great thing because
Mhm.
now I'm not going to tell you. I typically am not telling you about your product or service and how to repackage it. That's marketing. I don't tell you how to change the formula. That's the thing it is. I merely tell you how to price it, how to sell it, what is selling. Like Lynn said, he spent that time with John Day Cheese. He's not sitting there talking about enzymes and salts. He's talking about what cheese is selling and who's performing.
Mhm.
Those are two very different conversations. And most business owners who are obsessed with their business are looking at enzymes and salts,
Mhm.
right? Not at distribution channels and top sales product, and what product sells. People they look at things subjectively. They're
Right.
biased.
Mhm.
When you look at
So
the numbers,
there's no emotions
there's nothing
involved. There's
biased
no
about the
stories.
numbers.
There's no emotions, no stories, nothing involved with numbers when it comes. Well, they have their own stories. It's
They
just
have their
not the
stories. Exactly.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. They don't have the
there's a
emotional
story,
stories.
right? What we do is we read a language nobody else reads.
Mhm.
Numbers in your P&L might as well be Mandarin Chinese to the average person.
Exactly.
Well,
So,
yeah,
so Lynn, kind of to piggyback on that,
yeah.
when somebody approaches you and go, "Hey, I want you to help us out with this or take a look at that," do you go, "Okay, just send me everything. Don't talk to me anymore. I don't want to hear backstory. I don't want to hear your perspective, and I don't want to hear nothing. Just give me the numbers." Is that how you kind of approach it?
Well, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do with somebody is actually sit down and go through everything just to kind of see what do I see in it that they don't. And the first thing you can always tell is are these numbers even good? So I mean, and there's ways that you can get into the gory details of a business, but when you see like Costco, and Costco's the vendor that we buy all this stuff from, and they show up in 15 different lines of your P&L. How did these get there? Well, someone just go, they remember. It's like, okay, now you've got crap. And so, so the really, the important thing is do an initial assessment. How good are they? And then what are they really trying to do? Because sometimes people don't even really know what they're looking for when they come to somebody like this. I just know, I wish I knew this better. I feel embarrassed that I don't know this. What should I be doing? And these are all the questions that continue to amaze me. And Andy said it earlier. The number one question we get is, my accountant says I made $150,000 last year. Where is it? And you know that there's a failure in education or a failure in service delivery if people don't understand where their numbers go. That means their bookkeeper, their accountant, their tax preparer has spent zero time actually telling them what's going on in their business. We like to say there's, the accountants and all these people who look backwards, they tell you what it happened.
Mhm.
Our job as a CFO or any good finance person is to tell you, okay, well, this is the what, then let's get into the so what, so you can properly decide what's next.
Right.
And really, that's where we're trying to shift people's perspective from the past to thinking about where do I want to go in my future.
Mhm.
Everybody, your banker, your accountant, your tax preparer, they all are going to tell you how you did compared to prior year.
Right.
Interesting trivia. But are you up 40% because you've done something really, really well? Or is it because last year just really, really sucked? This is the kind of perspective that until, like Andy says, we ask the questions, people don't even think about it because they don't even know what questions to ask.
Right. This next question is for both of you. There's usually three types of people when it comes to running their business. There's the ones that are pretty self-explanatory that goes, yeah, I don't know my numbers. I need help. So that's easy. You go in and you show them and teach them and go, this is what you need to do. There's the in between, and then in between of the person who goes, I know my numbers. I know everything about my business. I know my numbers. I just don't understand why it's not working, right? So, do you have a story or a case study or a scenario where you walked into a scenario where the person goes, "No, I know all my numbers, and there's nothing that you could find that is going to be shocking to me," in which you did find something that completely changed their business 180? We'll start with Lynn.
The person who claims that no, professionally, I've never worked with somebody as as the owner of Data to Profit with somebody with that mentality because I won't work with them. Because
So
at the end
yeah,
of the day, it's almost like I've spent some time with a guy once, great prospect. We had a number of conversations, and he finally said, "Yes, let's do this." I said, "I would love to, but we can't." Just because whenever I've said that we could do this or take a look at this or something like this, he said, "Well, I've already tried that, done that. Nope, that won't work." I said, "The only thing you're going to remember from our engagement is that you wrote me a big check and I did nothing for you because you're not ready to act on something." So one of my criteria for working with somebody is you have to be all in. You have to be honest with yourself. Let the pride go for a little bit. You don't know everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be having a conversation.
Makes
yeah.
very
So
okay.
you said one third. So I love the number three. I break things down into three categories, and in this case, it's really simple. When I'm prospecting, there's going to be sometimes, always, and never people. So the people that always understand your numbers, there's no need for me in your business because you get it. The people that never understand and never want to get curious are the never people. And often those never people are really they masquerade as an always person. Oh, I get it. And really what they're saying is, I'm really not interested in being vulnerable. Or like in Lynn's case, I'm really not interested in listening to what you might have to say. And so the only clients I take on are the sometimes people. Because sometimes they're interested, sometimes they want to know, sometimes they look at their P&L. And to your point, you said case study. Our first or second call we had with our ghostwriter, Lynn and I have never talked about business before at this point. We've only talked about the idea of writing a book, and we kind of knew each other's story. And we said, okay, who is our ideal client? Who's going to read this book? And so we pulled up our client list, and Lynn and I in that moment realized over 80% of our clients historically are women.
Hmm.
That's a data point. That's interesting. We had never considered it. And then we said, well, why? And we realized that women were more curious, they were more willing, they were more capable of being vulnerable. One of my newer clients, I have a call with her here in a little bit. Her first call with me, she said, I feel like I'm going to the principal's office. Okay. Her second call, we met with her accountant and we talked about QuickBooks Online because right now she just gets a quarterly statement. And when I met her, she got in October her quarterly statement from June, right? So she got her Q2 statement in October, almost November at that point. Okay. So call one, she's in the principal's office. Call two, we meet with the accountant, and I said, let's go to QBO. And she goes, I don't want to log in. I don't want to go in there. I don't want to look at my numbers. As long as the accountant and Andy look at it, I'm fine. That's it. That is my involvement. Okay. We have a call in 2 hours. I got an email from her yesterday, and she said, I was looking at my P&L, and this is what I see. So she went from a place of, I know I need somebody, right? Because she called me and we reached out and she signed a contract and we're here to, I looked at my P&L. She said she hasn't looked at a P&L ever voluntarily.
Mhm.
And now we're on our third call and she looked at her P&L. That is, we're moving mountains here. And what it means is she's willing to look at something.
Right.
And
Yeah.
now we have that person that's exploratory. Because to Lynn's point, when people aren't willing, when I brought her on as a client, I had 2 calls the same day, 2 prospective clients. She told me within 10 minutes, Andy, let's do it. I don't even care. I don't care about your process. I don't care about your price. I'm so overwhelmed. The other woman argued with me for 45 minutes why it wasn't worth her time, energy, and money. And I
Mhm.
said, sounds good. I and then she canceled our follow-up call and I moved on with my life. A lot of people in business, they want to chase and they think, oh, I lost that sale. It's like, it wasn't yours. That person wasn't your client. One thing about being obsessed about data is I have become extremely objective in how I run my business. Right? When a job cancels, I'm like, okay. In the law of averages, that job was going to cancel. That client was, right? With me, I land about 50% of my clients. 50% of the people I prospect that I have an introductory call with will sign it, will sign with me. Great. That means in order for me to get customer one that signs, I had to get through customer two. I got to get through customer two. 2 calls led to 1 client. Well, with that math, 20 calls leads to 10 clients. That's pretty good math. What can I do to get 20 calls this month to sign 10 more clients? Like that's as simple as the math is. And so when things happen in my business, I've already accepted them because the law of averages said it's going to happen. You don't look at baseball, right? Baseball, when you hit 1 out of 3 baseballs, right? You go to the Hall of Fame. Right. Now, in business, when someone says, "Oh, I landed 9 out of 10 deals," and they get all frustrated about that last deal that week they didn't land, it's like law of averages, 90% is pretty good. I'll take 90% of anything all day. And yet people will get frustrated about the one that got away.
Yeah.
That's true. So when you guys work with your clients, do you usually want to work with their accountants as well? And then do you usually find that there's like conflict between what you guys are saying to what the accountants are doing?
Depends on the accountant.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, you have to because I tell people, look, I am not going to be your accountant. So I need to understand, I need to work with them because I need to understand actually what's going on and why things are happening the way that they are. And I see because it's very easy for somebody to get into the bookkeeping business on their own. And but how often do they actually run and participate in the business, or are they just sitting there? So
Mhm.
yes, I will definitely work with an accountant because part of it's the education, and I want to build financial capability in these places. And my favorite time, believe it or not, in an engagement is when the client finally says, "Lynn, I think we got this." Okay, great. That means you understand. That means you have some processes and you have some, procedures that are in place to make sure that you're actually going to continue doing the work. I'll tell people, great, like I get it, we're expensive. But once you achieve the results to what they're looking for, after that, if they continue to need me, I haven't done my job. I worked with one young lady for 3 years. She inherited the business right after her dad died. She'd never seen a financial statement. Kind of like Andy, the first time we got together, she said, "Hey, I just got this. What is it?" And it was a 3-month-old P&L. And she was her and dad and the CPAs that he worked with, they were running two separate businesses, very different businesses, out of one P&L. There was no way anyone was going to understand that business until we did the work to separate it, to train her, to start tracking some KPIs, to understanding what her income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow were actually saying and telling her. Once she did that, 3 years later, said, "Lynn, I think we got this."
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's an absolute requirement for me. So when we talk about your financial team, there's 6 people on your financial team. It's your bookkeeper, your accountant, your tax planner, your CFO, your financial advisor, and your banker. And of those people, I will interface typically with the bookkeeper and or accountant the most. For me, typically when I pick up clients, somewhere between calls 2 and 5, I have a meeting with the accountant or the bookkeeper, whoever's really leading the charge with the client. I never meet with them separate because ultimately it's the client's company. And one thing that I realized is somewhere between one half and one third of bookkeepers or accountants get fired within 90 days of me coming on board because either they're unwilling or unable to adapt to where we're going. I had a great meeting last week with a client, a newer client's accountant. We sat down and there's like this tension, like, ooh, new guy coming in, right there. This person's been the bookkeeper and accountant for 5 years. And I said, hey, these are some things we want to do. I'm prefacing, and I said the client wants this, and we want to check this. And I said, I want access. I want to bring it to QBO. I want to have access to the documents. She goes, why? Well, I want to pull these reports. She goes, well, that makes sense. And then we kind of warmed up to each other. And I said, this is what I'm seeing on the P&L. What are you seeing? She goes, oh yeah. She goes, I've been telling this client for years this problem I'm seeing. I go, okay, all right. And then all of a sudden, we were best friends. I've also had it where accountants you ask them to do something to do it in a certain way. Well, that's not the way we do things. Cool.
Mhm.
That's the way, that's the level of detail, right? When my client says, I'm spending too much money in marketing. Well, I need to see some detail of when you got 10% of your top line sales in expensed into your advertising and marketing budget, and it's called advertising and marketing, it's macro data. There's nothing I can do with macro data. And so I need it broken down. Oh, I spent this much on Google. I spend this much on networking. I spend this much on paid radio ads, whatever it is. And so accountants, it depends. When an accountant really wants to support the business owner, they're on board. We end up having great conversations. There's plenty of
Mhm.
times where bookkeepers and accountants are like, actually, Andy, this makes more sense. I see where we're going. And from an accounting standpoint, we're talking depreciation or something. They'll say this is actually the more correct way of doing them. Oh, that's awesome. Right. I look to them for advice on balance sheets and P&Ls, right? I want to pull scorecard data and do more operational accounting while they want to do more financial accounting. It ends up being this great collaborative conversation. And so for business owners out there, you got 6 people on your team. No different than Lynn and I have figured out our strengths and we lean in on them. You got to figure out who are your 6 people or six
Mhm.
positions, what are their strengths, and how do they go together? Because they're a team. This isn't 6 siloed individual. Like you want your bookkeeper and your accountant talking. When they're not talking, that's weird,
Yeah.
right? When the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, how are you going to get anything done? And so that's what I stress to people. So you said, do you have to work with the accountant? It's I am useless without a bookkeeper.
Right.
Hands
Mhm.
down, I'm useless without a bookkeeper. And so we got to be on the same page.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something you
And a
mentioned
lot.
about your one of your clients was that they started off as a person goes, "Oh, I give all that stuff to my accountant." And there's a lot of people out there. They're not number people. They're thinking that, "Hey, I got my accountant. They'll take care of everything, and they'll let me know if something's not right or if something's not going on according to plan and stuff like that." But as you kind of alluded to later on, they started learning the numbers. There's a saying that if you don't know your numbers, your business is doomed to fail.
Yep.
So explain to people why, like, to what extent should owners know their numbers and then go, okay, the rest should be the accountants, or should they be fully involved?
Yeah, I'm going to back up just a second around the I'm not a numbers person. There is not a person in the world who is not a numbers person. Are you going to be on time for this meeting? You're looking at numbers. It's quarter till, you got 15 minutes. You go to the doctor, what's the first thing they do? They take your vitals.
Mhm.
You get on some medication to control some numbers. I mean, you look at the blood panel that you get when you go to the hospital. There are numbers everywhere. You decide, I'm going to buy this because it's 99 cents versus this one that's $18,000. Numbers are around us. Numbers control everything we do. Even if you work for somebody, you have a budget. You instinctively know that you're getting paid that $2,000 a month, whatever it is, then that's you have to live within that numbers, or you're going to go deeply into debt. No one's ever shocked or surprised when they run out of cash. They're just not paying attention because they got this fear in them that, oh my God, numbers, accounting, ooh, I can't get it. It's basic addition. And when you get into like even all your KPIs, your key performance indicators, mostly you're going to have multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. There's nothing magical, there's nothing mystical about it. Accounting is some logical, but once you get a little bit of education, then you're ready to go off. Then you can start
And
getting involved. And the business owner, our objective, we say it in the book, our job is not to kind of make you the financial expert, but we want you to become aware and involved enough so that when they talk about what's going on in your business, you know what questions you ask, you know what stories to look for, and you are actually able to interpret the results or ask the questions, this isn't making sense. Tell me why not. I
so,
don't know if that
so
answered the question or not, but
yeah,
our
well,
job is to not make you
yeah,
an
no,
accountant.
Lynn's getting right there. Your job is not to be a financial expert. Your job as a business owner is to know somewhere between 3 and 5 numbers that can tell you the health of your business. Let's go back to Lynn's analysis. When you go to the doctor, what do you get, right? You sit down, what do they do? They take your temperature, blood pressure, pulse. That's right, the 3 things. Those 3 numbers take it from I don't feel well to okay, we might have something here. Same with you, right? So we can take, we do, we take your financial documents where, it's 200 lines. You have no idea what it means. It's crossed over, 12 months, and we come up with 3 to 5 scorecard metrics, KPIs, key performance indicators. Those KPIs will tell you how your business is doing. In almost every business, profit margin is one of your KPIs, right? Are we making money or are we losing money when we sell the widget? And then every business is going to be different. Once you understand those KPIs, you can say, oh, sales are up, sales are down, profit is up, profit is down. Okay, those are kind of basic things. And then the question is, well, why? So, for
Mhm.
example, I said from the top, I own a junk removal company. So, in junk removal, my number one variable expense is labor, the guys in the field, right? I have fuel and I have disposal, right? The guys in the field cost me the most money. Now, fixed expense side, I have salaried employees, right? Huge difference. And then I have truck payments and a building and insurance and all that stuff, right? In this big business, $2.5 million business, one number tells me whether or not, or there's 3 numbers I look at, right? One number tells me my efficiency, dollars per hour. How many dollars did each of the employees in the field produce this week? That's my first. Second, what was my revenue to goal? And so when I have 100% revenue to goal in the week, and my dollars per hour were over the threshold set, I had a great week. I hit my sales number and I was efficient. Now, let's look at what else might happen. When I don't hit my sales number and although I'm efficient, I had a good week, my dollars per hour high. I had an efficient week, and yet I left capacity. Guys maybe didn't work 40 hours. Trucks weren't on the road 10 hours those days. Okay, so now I have a capacity issue. I need sales to sell more of the inventory and capacity of time. Now let's flip it around. I hit my margin and I didn't hit my efficiencies. That means we hit our dollars. We fully, we had full capacity and our guys ran late. They ran long because they were out there longer than possible, longer than what we had planned for. And so now I've been inefficient. So that's probably a training gap. Or I don't have enough guys. I need more guys because the guys I had were burnt out. So now you can say, did I have a good week or bad week? It's like, well, I can look at 2 numbers and decide, does sales need to increase sales? Does service need to be more efficient? And what do I need to do to make them more efficient? So instead of saying, oh, I don't know, we had a bad week and I don't even know where to start. It's like, well, there's like three levers to pull, right? So for example, going into the week, now let's take it a step back. We look at our number sales to goal on Monday morning. When we see sales to goal is below a certain threshold, we increase our Google ad spend. That simple. We need the phone to ring on Monday and Tuesday. Not hope, not pray. We need it to ring. So we increase our Google ad spend. Conversely, when we've oversold for the week, right? Think about an airplane, right? They sold too many tickets. They're hoping somebody doesn't show up to that flight. Same with us. When we've oversold our inventory or close to oversold our inventory for the week, we cut back our Google ads because that's a lever we can pull. And so that's what business owners ought to understand. What are the 3 to 5 numbers? What are the 3 to 5 levers? When you have that, you sleep easy at night.
Mhm. Now, there's lots of people listening to this and go, oh, 3 or 4 numbers. I have to see that every single day, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Lynn, you're a master at getting people to love looking at their numbers. What's your strategy? Is it a threat, basically saying that if you don't look at these numbers, you're screwed? Or do you go, well, let's pretend this is a game? Like, how do you dress it up so that people go, okay, slowly but surely, they'll eventually love looking at their numbers?
First of all, you have to meet them where they are. And so, and I tell people, look, we're going to spend a lot of time together. We have to make this fun because eventually one of us is going to cry. And you know what? And I've had clients literally crying in front of me because they finally realized, I can't believe I'm just now doing this. I feel ashamed about this. And you know, you got to kind of got to get over that. But the most important thing is to make it simple, because if it gets too complex, they can't, you know, they can't wrap their minds around it. And it has to be limited, small steps, and you got to make it fun. At the end of the day, though, they have to understand why. You know, you can't convince somebody that they need to control overtime because their employees like getting the overtime because they like the extra money. But how much is that overtime costing you when you could probably if your overtime is that high, you're actually probably need more people.
Mhm.
And so we tried to break it down into something that's easy. And then, because at the end of the day, most of the decisions that people make about their business, they're not financial decisions. Hiring a new person is not a financial decision. It's a capability issue. It's an operational issue that has financial impacts. The only thing your numbers tell you are the outcome of your decisions and your behaviors. That's it.
Yeah,
One of the words, sorry,
I would say
one
real
of the
quick
words that you, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say one of the words that you mentioned was the word fun. I've heard some of the most successful individuals out there helping people increase their businesses and whatnot, and they go in with the approach of fun. Let's go into this negotiation having fun.
Yeah.
We could go into it like other people who are trying to get the most out of everybody, and everybody's pissed off and all that kind of stuff. But let's go with it with the mindset of having fun. So how do you make it fun?
How do you make it fun? You know, I try to break things down to as simple as possible. You know, and because and he explained it in a way that, you know, you hate to say it, but it's like a sixth grade level. What's the difference between accounting and finance? Okay, boys and girls, accounting begins with the letter A. It's a go. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. Finance begins with the letter F. It's about the future. It's a forecast of your potential fortune, your potential failure. And when you can't sleep at night at 3 a.m., it's where your fears are. So why the F? Don't we spend more time talking about your Fs than your A's? And people look at that and they do exactly what you did. They smile. Okay, now we're starting to have fun because I'm making it easy to digest. I'm not judging. And look, this is where we're going. You are going to feel better about this. As bad as you might feel right now, you are now on a journey to understanding, and that fun leads to engagement. The engagement leads to involvement, which leads to confidence. For me, a
Awesome.
CFO really stands for confident financial outcomes.
Nice. Eddie?
And again, people relate to that.
Yeah, to answer the question prior to that, it reminds me of the brickmaker analogy, right? You asked how do we get people to engage and stop running away from their numbers, and how do they get to like their numbers? And I never go out it. I never go out of my way to say you're going to be best friends with your numbers, right? It's a byproduct of falling back in love with your business. So the brick maker analogy, right? There's three employees making bricks. One, you said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm making bricks." The second employee said, "What are you doing?" "I'm making bricks to build a church." Okay. Third brick maker says, "Okay, what are you doing?" "I'm making bricks to build a church so it's a place of people of worship." Right? So in that analogy, when you ask someone, "Hey, why did you hire me?" They say, "I just want to figure out my numbers." That's the person that wants to make their bricks. That's all they want to do. Second person is the one that says, "I want to make my bricks to make my business better." Okay, that's fair, right? Still making bricks, we're good. Third person says, "I want to make these bricks, right? I want to build my business so that I have whatever it is. So I can retire in 5 years. So I can spend time with my grandkids. So I can buy that second house. So I have a legacy business that I can hand off to my children." Ooh, they know their why. And so with us in the book and even in our consulting, we always start with the business owner. Why did you get into business? Let's understand. Why are you still in business? Why do you work so hard? Why are you working? Why are you working? Why don't you just go get the job, the job, right? And once we understand the person's why, then we got something good. Then we can tie the decisions and actions towards that mountaintop, that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal, because that's their why. The challenge is a lot of people say, "I'm going to become a business owner," and they have all these aspirations of why they become a business owner. And then they become a business owner and they forget the love they felt when they first started. And so we bring back that love, the passion. And then once they see, hold on, these numbers are the bricks and the pavers. Like, this is my yellow brick road. This gets me to where I want to go. Then all of a sudden, it's not numbers are fun, right? It is winning is fun. Achieving is fun. And we get there through numbers, right? Talk to football players about stats. They don't care how many yards they had on the ground. They care that they won. They care they scored a touchdown, right? You can get 300 yards of offense and no points, and that's not fun. So, would you rather have the yards or do you want to win the game? And so with business owners, it's no different. Okay, we got to get the yards, and we get to get the yards. We get to calculate the yards. We get to set our destination. The beautiful thing about business owners is you get to decide the rules of the game. You can decide what success looks like. And it's our job as CFOs to really check the down and distance, to be the referees, to make sure we're playing the game the way you said you wanted to play the game. And then all of a sudden it's fun. And to Lynn's point, when humans are having fun, when humans play, right? And I tell my clients all the time, close your eyes. Let's play pretend. You have unlimited time, energy, resources. What does your future look like? Right? And then we bring it down to reality and what can we achieve? When you ask someone that's down and out what they want, they're going to only look to how do I get through the day?
Right.
When you tell someone, put all the worries aside, what does this perfect life look like? Now we start from perfect life and then we bring it down to reality. I say it all the time. Let's shoot for the stars and settle in the stratosphere, hanging out amongst the gods, because down here it's lonely. So let's do that. And now all of a sudden it's fun. And to Lynn's point about fun, it's fun winning. It's fun learning.
Yep.
It's fun focusing on the future. Those are all fun things. So that's where I'll nerd out to the numbers. I don't even need, I genuinely do not need our clients to look at profit and loss statements. Scorecards are fun. Here's your scorecard, right? So that's what it's all about. It's all about making it fun and making it relatable to their future. It's all about, Lynn says all the time. I've stole this from Lynn, 100% plagiarized, stole it from Lynn. The clear financial outcomes, right? Focus on the future. That's it.
Very cool stuff.
You know what, Lynn? You could be the chief fun officer. Maybe that's it. I am
I
the
was
chief
almost
fun
expecting
officer.
that. I was
That's
sitting there
a
going,
that's a good
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? What's
acronym.
juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Juxtaposition. It's one of my favorite
Because,
words. Might be my favorite word. When you walk in, like I'm the CFO, and they're like, this guy, right? Because a lot of people when they hear CFO, they're like, that's the guy that got rid of coffee, right? That's like the old penny puncher, bean counter, right? And you're like, I'm the chief fun officer to break the tension. You know what? I'm using that. I'm using on my calls from now on. I am your
there we go.
fractional
You're
chief fun
bridge.
officer.
You're bringing in the cotton candy. You're not taking away the coffee.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you how much money we can spend this year. I'm the fun police. Let's go spend more money, right?
Well,
And I talk about this all the time. One of the misnomers that people have is, oh, we got to cut expense. I hate cutting expenses. There's no need to cut expenses. How about we increase profits? How about we transfer money that we're spending on expenses, transfer into investments? When you tell people that they're probably not spending enough, what do you mean? I'm broke. How am I not spending enough? Well, you're not spending enough money in the right places.
Right.
That's the problem, right? And when you spend money here, it comes back with friends. Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank always talks about that. He says, "I want to know that when I give you my money, it comes back with more friends," and that's it. The difference between an investment and an expense. Lynn and I have talked about this at length about all the problems with the P&L because your P&L is merely a way to file taxes. That's it. It's not an intuitive document that tells you how to focus on your future. It merely tells you how to pay your taxes. And so Lynn and I have talked at length of what the downsides are of traditional accounting and how we got here today. So that's a interesting sidebar, how much we nerd out to this stuff.
My last formal question for you two is there's tons of business books out there, tons of number books, tons of books that teaches you how to be successful, how to know your numbers and all that kind of stuff. What makes your book so unique that this is a must-have? Lynn?
I think we're one of the big challenges for a small business owner, you're pretty much told from day one, you have a bookkeeper, you're paying taxes, you're covered. That is like this much of what you really takes to really good financially run your business and your life. So in this book, as Andy suggested before, we start with why are you in business? What do you want to achieve? Then we tell stories and ask questions along the way in a language that people can understand. I mean, we've really tried to make this accessible to people. And then we kind of walk you step by step in little bites. And it's like chapter, what, 12, something like that, where we actually start talking about financial statements. We talk about what is good data? What is data to begin with? What is the characteristics of your data? It's got to be current, complete, clear, correct. And so we do a lot of education along the way, walking you through how your business actually runs, how you're running it, but also then how it relates to your personal life, to your personal life future. You said, look, you have to take money out of your business. Andy said one of the six people in your life is a wealth manager. Wealth manager has nothing to do with building the assets of the business. It's making sure that you're working toward a future that you define. And along the way, we end every chapter with quick things that you can do now. So this isn't a long textbook. It's going to be a quick read, and it's going to be in a language that's going to relate to people, and it's going to be a fun book to read because we're challenging you. We're not telling you what to do anywhere. There are no answers in this book.
Yeah, one of the challenges I've seen with financial books in the past is they speak from a place of assuming you know the words on the page, right? They really are okay. Here are your cogs. It's like, well, what's a cog, right? And so that one of the challenges that we said from day one is how do we make this book very approachable? And so in my first book, I wrote it about neuro linguistics programming, and it's called Words Effing Matter. I'm sanitizing it because I heard that's how you said it earlier. Um, right? And it's like, oh, that's kind of approachable, right? That's different. I'm not, when people pick up the book, they don't anticipate reading a book about neurolinguistics programming.
Mhm.
Same with this book. It is not a textbook. It is not with the understanding that you have it figured out, all figured out, or even partially figured out. We acknowledge that right off the bat. We acknowledge on the back cover by saying, you're not a numbers person, you're a business owner, and now here you are, potentially drowning in debt and no clue where to start, no clue where to turn.
Mhm.
Because we're both business owners, they're continually being business owners. We're writing it from our perspective and our experience, and because we've been fractional CFOs, we're writing it from these are not just Andy and Lynn's individual experience. No, this is the experience of dozens of clients over dozens of years and all of their qualms and issues with numbers. And so we're writing from the perspective that the reader is most likely coming from. The other thing is we wrote the book at about, like Lynn said, sixth grade, I'll say fifth grade, whatever, fifth, sixth grade reading level. So it's very simple to understand. The other thing I'm very proud of in this book is throughout the book, there's about 100 different questions or activities to ask yourself. Within the book, we don't give any answers. We give information. We ask questions that you can ask yourself and others around you that'll guide you. We talk about it. It's a guide for business owners. We're very particular about that. We even transitioned the word help throughout the book to guide. We also got rid of the word entrepreneur and changed it to business owner because a lot of people are entrepreneurial minded and yet it's a hobby. The difference between a hobby and a business is a profit and loss statement. And once you make that transition, once you commit to saying, you know what, I am a business owner. Okay. Now we're going to give you the tools to own your business because too many people go from hobbyist to entrepreneur to business owner, and now they have this crushing boulder on their shoulder and they have no clue where to start. And so we're coming from a place of perspective. We're coming from a place of understanding, and we're coming from a place that joins you and guides you on your journey. You can read the book, one of your friends can read the book and have two completely different outcomes because everyone's journey is different.
I see. So, thank you very much for both your time and your stories and your expertise. Before I let you guys go, I got some quick rapid fire questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to mind. It's gonna be different for both of you, so I didn't want somebody to have a head start. So first of all, for Lynn, you're stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence. So you'll still be healthy. What would that food be?
Pizza.
Andy, you're stuck in a car ride for hours on end, and there's only one song to listen to over and over and over again. What song is that?
Ooh. That's what a question. Painted Black by the Rolling Stones.
Nice choice. Lynn, you're in the circus, and you get to choose one event to be in. What event is that?
Cannon fire. I want to be the guy in the runs into the cannon and gets shot across the way.
Andy, you're casted in a movie. Who would you love to have as a co-star?
Chris Farley.
Awesome. Both of you, well, Lim mentioned before that the two of you is like twins, the
Yep.
Danny DeVito and Schwarzenegger. Let's say both of them show up at your doors and goes, "Hey, guess what? We just got casted to play you two in your biopic. Let's hang out. Let's get to know each other. What does that night look like for both of you? Like, what's Lynn's version and what's Andy's version?"
Go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, I mean, it would for me, it'd be going out to a nice dinner and then a comedy show. Because because again, those are going to be the things it's a shared experience. Everything happens over food. And then when you can have food and laughter, that to me is magic.
Oh, we'd be in my backyard around the fire pit. I don't smoke cigars. I would make an exception to smoke a cigar with Schwarzenegger. And I would sit back and I would love to hear Schwarzenegger and DeVito talk and just tell stories because
Mhm.
I trust that they can play me just fine. I just want to hang out with them. That's interesting. Yeah, sit in my backyard, hang out with my wife and my kids and my dogs, and they'll get enough of who I am. I would love just to kick it with those guys and smoke cigars.
Okay, both of them are hungry, and they're expecting dinner, and both of you go, "Well, no worries. We're just gonna jump into the kitchen. We're gonna fix our specialty. What's your
Mm.
special dish, Andy?"
Oh, it's venison. So I'd cook them venison tenderloin, rice, maybe some steamed broccoli. Keep us simple staples, um, and something that they probably can't get get anywhere else.
And Lynn?
I'm going to come back to pizza again because
This is gonna order out.
no, I mean, but to me, pizza is the perfect food. My family, we've got traditions built around pizza. When and we got friends who regularly come over, we make it ourselves, and it's just something that when you have a good pizza, there's nothing like it.
All right. Both of you give me a number from 1 to 5.
Three.
Two.
Okay, so 3 is shape. So my question for Andy is, if you have to describe success as a
Mm.
shape, what shape
Mm.
would that be and why?
Hexagons because they're the best of gons. It's the most powerful shape in the universe. It's the most powerful shape. With a hexagon, they fit together perfectly. They have the most strength, so they're pushed from side to side. And when people think of hexagon, they think of bees, right? Bees are the ultimate industrious people. The math is if you paid bees minimum wage, 1 pound of honey is like 200,000 to $200,000 a pound, right? So the hexagon is the best of gons. It's a CP Gray YouTuber put a video out like 10 years ago, and hexagons are the best of guns.
Wow, it almost sounds like you had that prepped and ready to go.
Oh, I was so excited. When I saw
Yeah,
shape, I'm like, oh my God, I have a perfect, I love that shape.
Number two is ice skates. So, Lynn, if you had to use ice skates as a metaphor for success, how is success like ice skates?
you either have to learn to you have to. I never learned to skate backwards. And so somewhere in the whole thing is we are all slight when you're particularly when you're running a business, you're always on slippery ground. A couple mistakes here and there, your business is going to go under. And so you really need to kind of both learn how to learn the basics, the fundamentals, be able to go forward, be able to go backwards. But then the real fun happens when you're starting to accelerate, and then you're spinning around from you're not just going around the circle, you're actually participating in an event. And when you reach that level where you are doing things that nobody else is, there's just going to be that emotional high that nobody else is having. And when your business is humming and running, you're feeling confident, you're in control, that's when you're like on those skates, you're jumping, you are in control because you know exactly where you're going to land, how you're going to land, and you're going to get that 10 out of 10.
Nicely done. So that's how success is like, how success is like an ice skate, and why hexagons is the perfect metaphor for success. So thank you very much for the two of you for playing along. Any final words, comments, thoughts?
So to that question I asked Lynn about ice skates, when they asked Gretzky why he was so successful, he said, I always go where the puck is going, not where the puck is.
Yeah.
That is the key to your financials. That's the key to your scorecard. When you sit back and wait for your accountant to do your profit and loss statement and hand it to you a month after the quarter ended, you merely are where the puck used to be. When you have clear financials, when you have a team, when you have a scorecard, when you understand those 3 to 5 numbers, you know where the puck is going to be. That's a fun game to play. That's how you become the great one. That's how you score goals. That's how you win, knowing where the puck is going before anybody else.
Nicely done. And Lynn, any final words from you?
Yeah, it's all about making you aware of what is actually happening in your business. As Andy said, measuring your business going forward. Always thinking about where am I going, where am I headed? And once you know that, and you know where you're going and how you're performing relative to that, you are going to feel much more in control. And with that control is certainty and a little more confidence. And let me tell you, when you can stop worrying about your business and start loving it, as Andy said earlier, we want you to fall back in love with your business. Once you're there, now you've really reached a good positive state. And you are building a life that's going to support you in your retirement, but you're also bringing your entire team along with you. And you're bringing the joy and satisfaction and security and confidence into their lives as well.
Awesome. Nicely done. And final plug for the book. When is it coming out? How do people get it?
The book is going to be coming out mid-March, early to mid-March, and we are still putting together the whole landing page and everything where people can get it individually. You can find a little bit about it probably on each of our websites, but more information will be coming out very, very soon about where and how to get it. And we'd like to, at the end of this, we'll put the website up there and you can get it from there.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it'll be so we're self-publishing on Amazon, and so it'll be available on our individual websites. And it's real simple. Stop avoiding your numbers. It's the guide for small business owners. That's the key, right? So when looking at books that you might have read, right, look at this as a journey. It's all about the fun, and so it's a guide to guide you to understand where you're at and where you're going. Go on Amazon, It's the book pays for itself when you use it for its intended purposes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Once again, thanks for being here. Everybody out there, if you want to have fun learning about your own numbers, obviously these are the two guys to talk to because they know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, and they know how to make it fun. So make sure you reach out to them, pick up their book. And once again, thank you. Thank you, Lynn, Andy, and for everybody else. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you guys later.